I'm just going to check the lighting so it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It's always like a process. I'm like, it takes me like quite a minute to set everything up and just
Yeah.
right. I know that you do some podcasting yourself, right?
Yes, so we actually do it in our studio, just in the next room.
So
So that's quite good.
awesome. Can you talk about like what is your show about, like who you do it with and so forth?
Oh, sure. Are we starting now?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Why not?
Okay. So, sorry, I was just making sure in case there was some sort of intro or something that you do. Okay, no, so myself and another lady called Emma Heineman, the posing pro here in the UK, she and I will discuss all kinds of female bodybuilding related topics.
Mhm.
And we started doing show reviews first because that was just something that we wanted to do and we hadn't seen it being done yet.
Yeah.
So it started off with that, and now it's sort of going into its own world. And we're bringing on more and more guests to the point now where we've got ladies coming on as a roundtable, and you'll see this happening a little bit more frequently. And we'll be discussing pretty much, anything and everything to do with competing and lifestyle, but within a competitive sort of element.
Yeah, that's pretty cool because it's how many episodes do you guys have?
Well, so far we have 18, and then we've
18.
got another 4 that we sort of bulk filmed,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll just carry on going like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's interesting because now, like with people being able to just do a podcast or do a YouTube channel and without much like input as far as like financially, it's so like easy, but it in a good way, right? The people that are knowledgeable can get that knowledge and information out without having to spend a ton of money like they used to in the past. Like who can get on TV, or it's a very difficult, thing to do. Now you can just broadcast yourself. You don't have to worry about it as long as you have a good subject matter and you have something that people want to listen to, then
Mm,
it's sky's the limit.
absolutely. So yeah, we just sort of recognized that there was a need in this case, especially with the females sort of market in bodybuilding. And
Mhm.
I'm so glad we've done it because it's been a great opportunity.
Yeah. How did, like, when you say that there's a need, um, what do you mean by that? Like, what made you think that there was a need?
So you've got a lot of competitors in general, and they all tell their story through their own individual channels. And that's great because, you need your own social media to be able to boost you. And it goes hand in hand with what these athletes are doing. Um, but in terms of a specific platform, maybe on YouTube, there are a few podcasts, like, for example, I want to say Bikini and the Brain. You've got a few other ones like Not Just a Bikini Girl. But there wasn't really anything that sort of brought it together in a show element. And
Mhm.
I think that is what we sort of wanted to bring, which was slightly different than just an ordinary podcast.
Mhm. And you say you cover everything female related, and so it doesn't matter what division that they're.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So we myself, I'm a bikini amateur, so I love the bikini round. I think
Hmm.
it's just wonderful. And Emma is a pro in figure, so
Hmm.
she knows all of that, and that's basically her niche
Hmm.
in the bodybuilding. And then you've obviously got all these other categories where fitness, we both come from huge dance backgrounds, so we're able to identify on a level with the performance elements because of everything that we've had to do. And
Yeah.
then, it's also not about leaving those other categories out, like physique and obviously women's bodybuilding, which has come back. And it's so important to include every single division because I think when also we started, we wanted to be able to include everyone because everyone is just so completely unique and different with their body,
Hmm.
and no one category should place higher than the other. So it was really important just to be able to showcase everyone.
Sure. Yeah, because that sometimes happens, right? Like that,
Mm,
especially when you're trying to market to like a mainstream type of audience. Certain certain divisions get left behind. Like for example, female bodybuilding is one that always, gets left behind because it's a very niche division. Hard to people don't, in the general circles, don't really like look at female bodybuilding as much as they would at like bikini or figure, and so yeah, it's important to include them. Obviously they're important enough where now they're back on the Olympia stage. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
I think that's quite sad actually when people don't want to look at the female bodybuilding as much, because that's where it's all started, that's
Right.
where in the 80s, that's when you had the Rachel McLish on stage, and you had all these women coming in. Maybe they're a lot smaller, but that's where it all started. So
Yeah.
to place
I mean,
bikini above, I just
well, they're definitely a lot smaller because
yeah.
the girls back then would have been, what, maybe figure now, like
Yeah.
probably,
Yes, much tinier.
yeah. So what, speaking about the Olympia, what did you think? Did you get a chance to watch it this
Oh
last
yeah,
year? Okay.
absolutely.
And so what did you think of it overall?
Well, big, huge shout out just to be able to pull it off in the time and actually change venues. So to the whole team that actually managed to do that, that's an incredible feat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Organizing it in the first place can't be simple, and that's just got to be something else. In terms of, are we looking at placings or?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's
Okay, I'll go
let's
with bikini first then.
okay. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, I was generally surprised with Issa placing 6. I
Mm-hmm.
must admit, I thought it was. I've never seen that happen in my, my 7 years of watching the Olympias glued to the screen online.
Right.
I haven't seen that sort of jump. I thought she looked beautiful, but something maybe wasn't quite there, and they were going for a different kind of look. In terms of the girls that did place top 5, they were beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They were absolutely stunning, and it's a big, huge congratulations to Janet that actually won.
Yeah.
This was her time.
Yeah. A lot of people were saying, and I'm not a bikini connoisseur by any means, but a lot of people were saying that she was kind of on her way to winning, and
Oh,
some maybe even thought she should have won some other years. Um, I guess. So let me ask you this: in your competitive career, how do you see the judging for bikini? Like what do they judge? Because it's
yeah.
it's a division that focuses a lot on beauty, and then there is a muscle aspect to it. But tell me, like, kind of like from your viewpoint, like what are the judging is like?
Okay, well, bikini started 2010, and it's just completely changed.
Mhm.
Like the first Olympia, the girls looked like you could have taken them off of the beach
Right.
with very minimal to no training. And now the girls actually, they're a lot more conditioned, they have more muscularity. Shape and symmetry definitely plays a size, and it's almost like the bikini girls now, in my opinion, they almost come in as miniature figure women,
Mhm.
as
Mhm.
miniature figure athletes, let's say.
Yes.
And I do think in terms of judging, it's very difficult because they say that there is a set criteria. Yes, you've got to have nice full round glutes. Okay. And the glutes last year were on another level.
Mhm.
You've got to have that nice sort of cap to the shoulder, the V taper with the tiny little waist. But I do feel personally that there are trends within bikini. So, for example, when you came out of 2019 and Issa won it, there was a lat flare, and there
Mhm.
was more prominent kind of lat, and that was the look. And then going forward into 2020, a lot of girls try to emulate that, especially. Well, from what I saw here in the amateur ranks in the UK, we all try to get like this,
Mhm.
this big kind of V tape and this lat going on. And now it's completely pulled back, it's stripped back.
Yeah.
So in
Well,
terms of judging, it's going to be very difficult, I think, in terms of wanting to know what they want.
how, I mean, you kind of already answered the question, but it seems to me that it's very difficult to be in that division because of the trends.
Mm.
This person wins, so okay, well, I'm supposed to look like that, so I train to look like that. Then all of a sudden you see somebody else get, excuse me, rewarded for their physique that looks totally different. So now it's like, okay, well, do I need to look like this? Like, what do I need to look like to win? And you find that kind of thinking going on in your own head.
I do. Personally, for me, bikini should be an achievable look that anyone who wants to compete for the first time should be able to achieve that standard. When you go into figure and you go to physique, these are the next levels up, and
Mm,
they require a lot more in terms of training. That's what I personally believe.
mm,
Bikini is what I also like to call, and I know I'm going to get some hate, but I will say it. It is the fitness beauty pageant,
mhm,
because you cannot solely be judged on the muscularity that you bring to the stage. There's a smaller judging percentage, or like a smaller scoring percentage that's just based on your muscularity and your overall condition. Yes, you must look in condition, but it's also about the face now. It's about the hair. It's about your makeup. It's about your tan blending in with your face. I've seen some girls, and especially at Olympia, some of them have beautiful faces, but then the makeup's the wrong color to the tan, and automatically you get scored down.
And
It
see,
is, yeah,
as a man, like, I don't think about like all those things going into it. I understand that there's makeup. I understand that there's, jewelry and this, but being able to like blend your color, my wife, obviously, when she picks up makeup, she does that, and I hear her, but for some reason, I don't like, it didn't click as far as the competitions are concerned, that's also a part of it.
yeah. Well, definitely. And just bringing it back as well to the judging part of it, Becky Clausen, one of the NPC head judges,
Mm.
she even put on a post today. I'll try screenshot it for you later, but she said it was a picture of Janet, and underneath it was in her stories, and she said this is what bikini should look like, which is attainable, it's achievable.
Mhm. Yeah.
They don't want somebody now that's going to be completely shredded to the bone. You want to look healthy and full, and at the
Right.
same time just have that look that you can work hard in the gym, but you're not taking it to the next level, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense, because if we're judging strictly on like muscle, then
Mm,
you would, I mean, the natural progression is to get bigger, stronger, more developed, and then that would, and then what are we looking at? I mean, we're basically looking at, figure and so on and
yeah.
so on. So, as far as you're concerned, have you ever considered figure?
I considered fitness.
Okay.
um, for me, because of my dance background and the gymnastics that I have,
Mhm.
I felt like the performance would have been easier.
Mm,
But to be able to take your body to the next level, you have to really want it, one. And two, you have to be very comfortable with putting on more muscular mass.
mhm.
And it's something I'm not comfortable doing. So
I
I will
see.
never move up.
So you're not interested in putting more muscle on your frame.
I'm comfortable with this look that I have now,
I
but I
see.
can completely respect all the women that want to do bodybuilding, because I can see now when I talk to these women how much goes into it for them.
Sure, sure.
You can
Yeah,
completely respect that.
I mean, sure, that makes sense, because I mean, everybody can't be in every division. Like, right, there's got to be, limits to what you want too,
Mm.
So, and so speaking of figure, what did you think of that in Olympia?
Oh, absolutely stunning. Sydney was the winner, the
Mhm.
clear winner. And if she carries on competing, I do feel like she'll be the winner for the next couple of years.
Yeah, I was just talking to someone just recently, and I asked them if they thought that anybody will ever challenge, Sydney, at least in the near future. And they said that she's got a good 2 3 years at least, and
Oh
then
yeah.
we'll see. Is anybody else in that division? And I know that's not your division, intrinsically. Anyone else stand out to you that might be a potential threat eventually?
So the runner-up, Natalia, she was
Mhm.
beautiful as well. Like I do feel like the thing that Sydney has over the rest of those women at this moment is that tiny little waist, you know, like she just, and she's got a certain flow to her presentation, which she just oozes this confidence. I've never seen, you know,
Yeah.
she's almost like a natural performer, and she's got that star quality. But Natalia is really beautiful too, and I do think that she will give Sydney a good run for her money. The ladies, you know, in that lineup, they are all stunning, but I do think Sydney will be unchallenged. Well, I do think she'll take it for the next 2 to 3 years, like your friend, unless somebody just comes in from
Out of
some
nowhere.
pro show and then all of a sudden they come in, you know?
Sure. So do you think Latoya's, and I say this with complete respect, but do you think her time is over at this point?
I think she's had a great competing career, and I think, you know, I must also be careful with what I say because I have respect for her too. But I think at this moment in time, I don't know if she will go back into top 3 or top 1, let's say.
Right.
But that shouldn't diminish any of her success and that what she has accomplished so far.
Yeah,
you
and
know?
absolutely, and this isn't, to badmouth her or anything like that. It's, this is a sport, and like any sport, you have to, we're analyzing the athletes. So, but in her case, I mean, it sure doesn't seem like it, and that she could come back. But in bodybuilding, in fitness competitions, those are tough things to do. It's not easy.
I think she can still win pro shows, and she'll still always, like, she'll qualify for as long as she wants to qualify in the shows that she wants to go, especially with the Olympia. But I don't know whether or not I would place her in my top 3 for Olympia.
Yeah. I tend to agree with that. So, and I know I'm asking a lot of this off the
Go ahead.
top of your head, but
Go ahead.
but so what about, so now, like, moving on, what about the women's physique? Now there's a big controversy there, and then following up with the controversy, Shanique Grant retires. So what do you think about all that, and what are your opinions on it?
Well, I think Shanique is very young to consider retiring, and she is, beautiful. I think she's very, very young. If her claim is that she actually does want to have kids now, and she wants to maybe focus on a different part of her life, then I can understand that, because like, as we mentioned before, getting up to those next levels in these categories, it's quite taxing on the body, especially, I'm not saying, but I will say it, there might be some use of elements.
PEDs.
Okay, absolutely. I'm not saying one person uses it or not. I'm just saying that it gets harder and harder.
Sure.
So if she wants to focus on a new part of her life, then she must do it. But I would love to see her return in a few years' time, because I think she can still offer more.
Yeah. And I mean, and like you said, without going too much into it, because I know it's a touchy subject for a lot of people, but it's one of those things where, the reality is that, if at that level of muscularity, you have to make choices, whether your career or family life, at least for that, for this young period of her life. What did you think about the actual loss itself? Because she lost the Olympia. Do you feel it was justified?
So the lady that came in, what was her name again?
That's a very good question, because I can't.
Giles interviewed her, and I should know. I can see her in my mind right now. I thought the lady that won, let me Google this name quickly. And
Sure.
I can't believe it. It's not Coelho.
I can't remember her name, and now if you would ask me any other time, I would remember it. But for some reason, I can't remember her name now. But yeah, it was a interesting decision by the judges.
It's on I can see her right here in my mind, and for some reason, I cannot see her Lenker, Sarah Villegas. There we go.
Yes, yeah.
Sarah, that's the link. Okay, so I thought Sarah looked like in condition. She was on point. I don't. It would have been very hard to judge those two. I do think maybe Shanique could have still won it, but maybe it was Sarah's time.
Yeah, it's interesting is what you mentioned about Bikini. I was talking to someone else on a podcast as well about Shanique and this decision, and they were stating that, and of course, like I thought Shanique should have won. A lot of people do. A lot of people think it was a bad decision, but one thing that this lady was stating was that Shanique is genetically very gifted. So there's not a lot of people that will look like her. Actually none that we can remember.
I've never seen.
Yeah. So by giving it to someone that is more like a more attainable look, that now it becomes more competitive. I don't know. That was their explanation, because if Shanique wins, then who can compare to her, but I don't know. I mean, that was one kind of explanation that someone gave. I'm not sure I buy it, but that was the only time that I've ever heard anybody give like a more or less reasonable explanation on why Shanique lost. The girl that got second or won the Sarah, she looked great, and there's nothing taken away from her, but just the genetic factors that Shanique has, those things you're born with, like you can't really develop that, and so yeah, I don't know. That was a tough one. That was probably the one that made me scratch my head out of the whole competition. The rest kind of seemed to be on par, like with.
It's an interesting theory to the person that also sort of mentioned that. I think it's quite interesting. But sometimes I do think that maybe they just do want a different look, and like you said, now it will maybe make it more competitive for a certain body type. But in terms of Shanique's standing, if she does have kids now, I'd love to see her come back in a few years' time.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to know how she, if she does have kids, like how her body's going to look after the children, because, as everyone knows, women do change after they, have kids. So, I mean, that's just a biological factor. It's nothing to do with anything else, but it doesn't mean that you can't come back, but it does take some, some work that you might not be used to before, especially if you didn't have children before. So now moving on to the bodybuilding. Yes. So any ideas there? Any thoughts?
Well, I loved Myla Ash, who came in fifth. She sort of came out from women's physique and went into bodybuilding at New York Pro, won that. And then she just looked incredible. She will be one to watch. So
you think within the next few years she was going to start climbing the ranks?
I think she can definitely climb it. She just took it to a whole new level. She found her category. She found her place in terms of what suits her body, and I cannot wait to see her do more. She's only just begun in this category,
Yeah, I've noticed also that now even the bodybuilding, they brought them back, but the girls seem a little more streamlined. I mean, they're still obviously a lot bigger than everyone else, but they're more, I don't know what the word would be to call it, but yeah, just more streamlined, more in line with more aesthetically pleasing, I guess you could say. Yep. So yeah, and I think that's a great look for bodybuilding, because I think part of the problem originally was it was just getting kind of out of hand, So,
yeah, definitely. I think the look was really beautiful. I was a bit saddened when Iris couldn't come into it.
Yes.
Again, I think it's great to see the category is back, because I never got to see it sort of growing up. And then I did get to meet Iris once at Body Power in 2018.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
So that was very, very nice. And it's just exciting that they brought it back. It's about time, instead of just being Wings of Strength. It's a category that deserves to be on the Olympia stage.
Yeah. And I mean, I think now it's going to be really sought after, especially with all the money that's being put up for that division. I mean, Wings of
Yeah.
Strength, huge purse, excuse me. And then of course the Olympia, so there's a lot of money being given out to female bodybuilding champions. So a lot of people are going to want to, crack at that. So for
Well,
sure.
then they absolutely should.
Yeah.
Like I said, it all comes down to how much you want it and how comfortable you are putting on that size. And if you are a woman that really wants and you want to go for it, then you go do it, because it will make it more popular now, but I still think it'll be less popular than, let's say, bikini.
Yeah. Oh, of course. I mean, the
So,
bikini is just like you said. It's in a more attainable look. It's going to be majority of people are going to be looking at bikini. The average person, if you take them off the street and sit them down in the bodybuilding competition, they're going to be more interested in bikini than anything else.
yeah.
So, so now, I mean, we can move on to fitness. Is a personal friend of mine that I had a couple of times already on the show. Missy won fitness, and she deservedly so.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on on that division?
Yeah. Well, again, fitness is really excelling. More and more girls are getting into it, which is nice to see. In terms of the routines, Missy's was on another level. Bringing that prop or that big cage in and then doing the front tuck off of the 6 foot, she increased her level of difficulty in that routine. That, like, because that's part of the scoring. It's
Sure.
2/3, and the more difficult you can make your routine, and you nail it, you're just going to wow that audience and the judges. So deservedly so. She looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Physique wise, my God, Emma and I can't stop oogling over her pictures, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because she's just got a crazy proportion. And the routine, really speaks for itself.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was speaking with her a couple of months ago, or it was a couple of weeks after the Olympia, she was saying how just she was working on that routine, and then how with all the COVID things happening, they had to basically go and just to a local gym, and there was closing out or something to that effect. I can't remember, somewhere where they got the equipment like from there so that she could work on it at the house, and it was quite an endeavor for her to go through all that, but it all paid off. And I probably should have been cheering for Oksana because I'm Russian like she is, but but I love Missy, so I was hoping she would actually win, and beating Oksana Grishina, who was really, everyone thought was a done deal, right? Like as soon as we heard that she's coming back, that was going to be pretty much it. And she loses. It's a big feather in Missy's cap to beat the this several time Olympia champ, and people mostly regard Oksana as the best routines, although now with Missy doing that, it's a big question mark. We'll see what happens next year, or this year I guess I should say.
I have to say, like, between Oksana and Missy's routines, though, like, Oksana has more of a dance, lyrical, she is a born performer. And then you've got Missy that just came out like, like a firecracker kind of thing. And it was explosive, if that makes sense,
Yes,
but they were two very different styles, but they both looked amazing. But I think where Missy sort of won a little bit over Oksana in this case was the physique.
Yeah, she definitely has that a great physique, and especially compared to everyone else, she just overpowers them in the lineup. She really overpowered them. I know we talked about that she's competed in figure a couple of times too, and so she was saying, well, once she gets done with fitness, where her body, is not going to be in a position where she can dance like that, she's considering, also competing in figure. And I think that's a great idea, because she's definitely, in that, in on that level with those girls. So
absolutely. Sure. I think also with the fitness round coming in for this year's Olympia, to be competitive with Missy, I do think Missy will win again based on physique as well. The ladies are going to have to look a little bit more, I guess, like the figure look, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
But
no, I
with
do
a
understand.
fitness routine. But with all due respect to Oksana and Whitney, like, oh my God, they're fantastic, but it was Missy's time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I don't know if you noticed or how far you've seen, but the award
Yeah.
of the ceremony, how that was a kind of a little bit of a debacle, and
Yeah.
that's so. I was when I was talking to her, I was like, was it, what were you thinking at the time and everything, and it was just such a like a shock, and then all of a sudden it's, oh wait a minute, no, nope, the room come back now. It was quite a scene there. So
Yeah, I will say with both of the ladies, Oksana and Missy, they handled that with a lot of grace.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I didn't even notice any kind of difference in their facial expressions, as far as they all both were smiling, and they didn't stop smiling and didn't stop giving that kind of a positive feel to the environment, throughout that whole, while they were figuring out what was going on. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens. What do you think about them moving the Arnold to September? I believe September is when they moved it to.
Ooh. Probably a good thing considering what's happening with the world
Mm-hmm.
in terms of, this. And maybe it will be good in terms of also the athletes don't get such a break, if that makes sense. So where it was
Yeah.
in March before, they would take a little bit of a break and then go into it. Now they can actually improve properly, or like, have a good solid break, or had
Right.
it,
Yeah.
then get back into it, do the Arnolds, and then just sort of prep for the Olympia. I think
Yeah.
it's a smart decision for this year, but who knows what will happen for 22.
Yeah, no, very true. I think we're going to see better physiques. I think we're going to see better physiques. They're going to have a longer off season, especially the champions, because or the ones that are closer in the top 5, because usually those people don't compete more than once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a long off season. You're going to have a long time to improve, and then you're going to prep for the Arnold and just kind of extend it to the Olympia. So I think that'll be great. Now, for as an audience member or as a spectator, it's kind of long wait, because those are two big shows.
Yeah,
So
it's also quite difficult on the media industry where, you build up all the hype for the Arnold, it's done, you review the Arnold, and then all of a sudden you're building up all the hype for the Olympia, it gets done, post review. So I do think for
Right.
media and podcasts, everyone's going to have to get a lot more creative.
Absolutely.
But like you said, from a spectator point of view, it could be more fun because it's all built up together, which is quite nice.
Yeah, very true. My story last time with the Arnold was in 2020. I haven't been to the Arnold in a few years, and I was ready to go, packing my bags, and at that moment, like the day of that I was going to leave, I believe it was a Thursday, they announced that it was essentially canceled, at least for the audience. I was like, oh no. It was terrible. But I'm okay. I made it through. I made it through.
Are you going to try watch it this year?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to try. We'll see what happens. Who knows what's going to happen with all these shows. Part of the problem, with prepping for this year is we don't, the competitors don't know they're going to prep for a show. It can be canceled. And then all that prep time. Now, what do you do? So what are your goals for this year, competitively speaking?
So I definitely plan on competing, and I would like to compete overseas. But I will not do this until the very end of the year. And part of my plan was hopefully to come to the US, but we'll see what happens with travel.
Well, with you in UK, it's a tough time right now. You guys are completely pretty much in lockdown, right?
Absolutely. Still can't go to the gym. So we're gonna have to try to do something here and convert our garage. I feel like the UK will go into a lockdown, come out of it, and we'll keep on going through it. I know that
up and
sounds
down.
terrible. I think it sounds terrible to say that, but I just have this feeling it's going to be you know, just in case. You're always going to have to be prepared. So the only way to sort of do anything is just convert the garage now.
Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. I mean, in the US, we do have limited, limited capacity gyms now. But I was thinking to myself, anytime, any moment,
Mm,
things could change, and it's like I
mhm,
have to have a decent amount of things at the garage, to do something if that happens.
mm,
It's like I learned the first time, and I was like, I'm not going through this again, because what happened was when everything shut down and I tried to buy some weights, they were extremely expensive.
yeah.
Everybody was selling them at inflated, prices. So
Mm.
yeah,
I
but,
know. It's been really something here. I did actually lose some cash on some items that I bought this year in January when we
mm,
went back into our third lockdown. And it was just, what can you do at the end of the day? It's
yeah,
some people are definitely taking advantage of the situation a little bit too much.
of course. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
they were doing that with toilet paper. I don't know if you noticed
Yeah. Like
before.
that was ridiculous. I've never ever thought that would ever be an issue in my life. And I
Yeah.
thank
Apparently
goodness.
that's the biggest concern people have when,
Yeah.
the apocalypse is happening.
I know everybody goes and rushes off to the Tesco's. So just
Uh,
ridiculous. But no,
that's
like that was something else.
That's great. So how do you train now? I mean, are you just doing like more band work and body
Oh yeah.
exercises?
So I keep my steps up pretty high.
Mhm.
We do have cardio equipment here, so
Oh,
it's
okay.
easy for me to be able to do that. I have some weights, which I am
Hmm.
lucky, so I can do that.
Yeah.
But in terms of my physique, it's just, my routine doesn't change in terms of training. So I
Gotcha.
will do 3 glute focus sessions in a week, whether it's with
Mhm.
bands or my dumbbells. And I'll keep my steps up pretty high. And then I do 2 upper focus sessions. And for now, it's enough to be able to maintain, but not necessarily grow as much as I would like to grow.
Sure. Sure. So
So,
what is your, I mean, like, what are your goals in your physique? I mean, you seem, from our conversation here and then also your page, you seem very, lean woman.
oh,
Like
thank you.
how do you, what are your thoughts like on progressing? Like, what are you trying to do?
So at the moment, my main goal would be to get an IFBB Bikini Pro card.
Mhm.
And for me to be able to do that, I do need a little bit more development on the upper rounded glutes, just to get that going. I think everything else comes in quite nicely for me.
Okay.
And I feel like I'm close, but I need to leave the UK to compete.
Mhm. You do need to leave the UK, you said, to compete. Why? Why do you say that?
Well, it's awesome, and there are so many more shows that are happening now. I just feel like I present a look that's not what they will want here,
Oh, I see. I see.
and I
You know,
do. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like when I was looking at the Olympia, I did feel just by looking at the 40 women on stage, and we had the European competitors there, and we had a lot from the US and from Brazil. I kind of felt that there was a different look.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like my look is more suited to the US look.
When you say different, like, do you have some specific that you were thinking of?
So we had a few girls, for example, Francesca Stoica, beautiful. We had, uh, uh, what is my other lady's name? Dark, dark hair, very tall lady. They are very conditioned, and they had, for me, slightly more muscularity, and not like as full, if that makes sense,
Hmm.
as like that full round muscle.
Right.
Um, and then the US competitors and especially the top 5, which I look at, there was a big difference with the way that the waist looks, the glutes, the look,
Hmm.
just different.
So
And
you're
I will
saying,
say that.
those looks don't get rewarded in Europe
I
or
don't think
UK
it was rewarded in the US for the European girls this
for the
year.
European girls. And
Um,
you're saying you look more like the American girls. Is
well, the look that I would want to present on stage would be more like the US girls,
I
definitely.
see. I see. Yeah, it does. Because bodybuilding is such a subjective sport. Like all these things make a difference, even the judging panel, what country you're in, that
Yeah.
makes a extreme difference. I remember that in the 90s, when the bodybuilding men would go on European tours after the Olympia, they would mention how depending on what country you're in and what, like, you could place completely differently, and even though you look the same. So yeah, so just to kind of conclude, what do you think of wellness now that wellness is coming into the picture?
I love it. I
Mhm.
love it. I'm so happy it's coming in completely, again, different. It's sexy. Again, everyone is created completely differently. I
Mhm.
think it was a category that was needed in between the
Mhm.
bikini and the figure ladies.
Yeah.
It's I'd love to look like a wellness woman. Okay, they look amazing. They look like sexy superheroes. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
for example, if Simon Bisley had to draw a woman, I would imagine he would draw a wellness physique as a superhero.
Well, it's interesting because their legs are very like muscular, right? And so, but they have small waists, and then like lean upper body, and
Mm,
it's unique. It was a look that in Hispanic countries in the competition was very popular, and then I guess
mm.
the IFBB just decided, look, it's time to go ahead and
Yeah,
bring them
absolutely.
in.
Bring it on. I
Yeah.
think they look fantastic.
So
Yeah.
are you then I guess I could say, um, do you prefer that the IFBB have the more divisions the better, or do you like the way things are now and just kind of leave it because you feel like they've covered everything?
I feel like at this moment in time, they've covered everything
Mhm.
for each sort of uh, category, I should say,
Yeah.
for each sort of physique. Um, you can't have too many categories, otherwise, it's just going to, they'll have to have a separate Olympia just for women. Uh, you know,
Yes. Yes.
so I
Yeah.
think at this moment in time, they've got 6 categories. It's a good amount,
Mhm.
and you should be able to find your fit as a
Right.
female if
Yeah.
you want to compete
Yeah.
now.
You feel like they've covered all the possible physiques that you could have. So.
Let me have a think about this. So you got bikini and wellness, figure, physique, bodybuilding, fitness. I think so.
Yeah.
I do think so.
Yeah, it sure seems like it. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, so do you do anything outside of the podcast and competing? Do you coach? Do you train?
Okay, so at this, well, training for myself, but in terms of podcast, I do own an online store called Bombshell,
Okay.
which
An
is
online what? I'm sorry, I couldn't catch that. Online what?
an online store.
Oh, store. Okay. Okay.
So I sell all the bikini competitors' shoes and their jewelry,
Oh, very cool.
and that's basically how it all started.
So what made you decide to do that?
Oh, my original background is in accounting and finance,
Okay.
and I am very grateful for everything I've learned, but I'm
Hmm.
clearly not passionate about it to be able to want to do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, well, it's hard
So
to be passionate about finance and statistics and such.
it's useful, don't
Oh,
get me wrong,
very.
it's really useful, but I kept on thinking and looking out a window one day and thinking, if I really want to do this for the rest of my life, or if there was something else I could do that would give me
Mhm.
more fulfillment. And I decided to leave that world behind last year in January, and then we went
Okay.
into lockdown in March.
Mm.
So perfect
So,
timing.
so it worked out very well.
Yes, for the most part, and it's still in its sort of like baby stages, but it's growing, which is
Mhm.
really nice to see. And my next sort of phase now is to bring on the bikinis and sort of do a sort of one-stop shop for girls that want to compete.
Okay. Okay.
That's the aim.
So you run the store, you do a podcast, you're a woman of many talents. I see.
Thank you.
And you compete. And is there anything else that you want to add to that list? I know it's a very full list.
Mm, so I also, like, obviously with my background with Emma, we both danced like
Mhm.
ballet, contemporary. That was a huge part of it, and I am thinking about bringing something into buff with that, but I need to figure it out.
I'm sure you will. You seem like you got a good head on your shoulders.
Thank you.
So, so yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. I know you're very busy. So to come and chat with me for a little bit. And everything that you mentioned, I'm going to go ahead and put that on the bottom of this video, guys. Go ahead and check her out. Check out her store. Check out her podcast, and enjoy. So,
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me on. And, good luck to everything that you're doing in the future.
I
I'm
thank you so
really
much.
honored that you wanted me on.
Of course, of course.
So
I'm honored that you
yeah.
came on. Thank you
If
so
you
much.
ever want to catch up, we could do that. It'll be good.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'll
Yeah.
take you up on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
so
Thank
much.
you.
You take
Thank you,
care.
man.
You have a good
Bye.
day. Bye.